Welcome to All Ease Accounting. I'm Reagan Bashara. I'm the numbers witch and I'm that QuickBooks bitch. And today I'm going to be talking to you about why and how you should choose the right expense categories for your self-employed business expenses. And understanding how to categorize your business expenses is crucial to being self-employed and a small business owner. And let's talk about why. Number one, because of tax preparation. In the United States, at the very least, we do get to take business expenses as deductions. And expenses that are tax deductible mean that they are both ordinary and necessary. It has to be ordinary for your type of business to take that sort of expense as a tax deduction and also get some sort of benefit from that expense for your business, making that expense necessary to your business operations. This also helps with accurate bookkeeping. The better that we can dial in your expense categories and get you set up to use expense categories in the way works best for the financial insights of your business, the better off we're going to be. So having accurate books, being able to look into your finances and see your numbers about what's going on in your business, and having an accurate tax return every year make understanding expense categories crucial to you running your business efficiently. Let's talk about what expense categories are, because in QuickBooks Online, you might not even know where to go to look at your expense categories or how to create new ones. And I will be walking you through some step-by-step processes for that inside this video. You should also check out my Bookkeeping Foundation Kit, which is the essential guide to setting up your self-employed business bookkeeping, especially if you're using QuickBooks Online. Now, expense categories, we do go over inside the kit as well, and I actually give you a sample chart of accounts for a couple of different industries inside the kit. And that way you can add or remove expense categories that are relevant or irrelevant, respectively, to your business operations. When we talk about the chart of accounts in QuickBooks Online, this is also something that I go over inside the kit. We're talking about the hub of your business income and expense categories, all of the accounts and ways that we can categorize transactions in your bookkeeping. But the chart of accounts is just a list, and there are different account types on there. Just like we have talked about your income categories in a previous video, which I will link here or in the description for you to check out, we talk about expense categories, which are also found on the chart of accounts. And expense categories just means that you had to spend money in order to operate your business, and we classify them a different way depending on what you spent your money on. There are a lot of common categories that most businesses will share even across industries. Things like subcontractor expenses or office supplies or advertising costs. But when we get down into the nitty-gritty of different types of businesses and different industries, you'll see that expense categories will vary across these industries. And when you first set up your QuickBooks Online account, they provide you with a few expense categories that they think that you might use. But it's really important to work on your chart of accounts first, set up your expense categories based on how you spend money in your business so that they're ready to go when you start doing your data entry and accepting transactions into QuickBooks Online. And again, we want to talk about expenses as it relates to both your tax return and to you having financial clarity about what's going on in your business, how you make and spend money. So it's really important that we get your categories and your expense categories specifically really dialed in for your business operations. Like I do inside the Bookkeeping Foundation Kit, I want to go through how to identify expense categories with you. First, we need to talk about what type of business you have. Are you a retail-based business, which you're selling a product either through in-person sales or an e-commerce platform or both? Are you in the service-based industry where you're providing maybe business consulting, B2B services, business-to-consumer services, etc.? Or you might be a construction company, and I have worked with so many different construction companies doing trainings on QuickBooks Online with them, and they have very specific expense categories they need to use to track the profitability of some of their construction projects. So what industry you're in will have a big impact on which expense categories that you're using for your business bookkeeping. Now, I mentioned that QuickBooks does have a set of predetermined expense categories, but I want to encourage you to dive into the way you talk about how you spend money in your business. I'm big on how you speak about your business day to day and reflecting that in the bookkeeping, using the same kind of words and terminology that you use in your business so that when you look at your financial reports, you will have clarity about how you make and spend your money. So of course you can select the predetermined QuickBooks Online expense categories, but if there's something that you really want to see broken out in terms of how much money you spend on a particular operating cost, then put that as an expense category. But I want to also encourage you to keep it simple because we don't want to have a huge long list of expense categories. We also don't want to have a different vendor for each expense category. We don't want to have like Walmart supplies versus Office Depot supplies versus Lowe's supplies. We would just put all of that under the supplies expense category. So feel free and dive into customizing your expense categories as you need, taking things away that QuickBooks might have set up as a default account in your bookkeeping, and then adding things as you see fit. So here's a couple of mistakes that I see some people making whenever they first start using QuickBooks Online and first start setting up their bookkeeping. Using way too many custom categories. Now, you don't want your chart of accounts to be so long that you actually have to upgrade your QuickBooks Online subscription just to have the amount of expense categories that you want to have. And yes, there is a limit on all QuickBooks Online subscriptions to how many different categories you can have. So adding too many custom categories will actually set you back and cost you more money. And it's not going to provide any more insight than just looking at your bank statement to see how you're spending money. We categorize and group things based on how they get deducted on your tax return, but also so that you can see the profitability of your business. For instance, if you sell a certain product and you need to see the cost of materials and things going into that product that you sell, we would put that in a cost of goods category and use the language from the income category. Let's say this particular product sales, and then we would want to see the cost of goods category reflected with that terminology, this particular product cost of goods, so that you can see what is the markup rate or what profit am I making off of this specific group of items. Another error that I see a lot of people doing is mixing business and personal expenses. And now I'm not talking about you going to the grocery store and realizing that you only brought your business debit card and therefore swiping it to buy your groceries for the week. I'm not talking about that because we have an easy way to record those types of transactions, and there's nothing wrong with having personal transactions in your business account. But the error is in categorizing things for your business with an expense category on your business bookkeeping that are actually personal expenses. And this really comes into play when you go to file your tax return. Whether you are self-preparing your tax return or you have hired an accountant who is your tax preparer for that year, we don't want you to claim anything that is actually a personal expense because it is not an ordinary business expense, nor is it a necessary business expense for you. So there's nothing wrong with transacting business and personal in the same account, although I do recommend separating those so that it's easier to track your business expenses by keeping the personal expenses in a separate account. But if it does happen, that's okay. Just make sure that you're not categorizing things and transactions that were actually personal as business expenses. You do not want to overstate what you spent to operate your business. And then one thing that I see people doing is allowing QuickBooks to put things in the uncategorized or miscellaneous expense categories. We do not use uncategorized or miscellaneous expense categories when you're working with me. Everything does have a category. If we can't pick a category from the list that you already have on your chart of accounts, that's a great time to consider adding a new category for your expenses. But we don't put things in uncategorized because everything does have a category. And miscellaneous is just kind of a dumping ground for things that you didn't take the time to think about how to categorize. So if you're not sure about something, leave me a comment below or get in touch with me through my various communication channels, and I'll help you out deciding on an expense category that's appropriate for your business type. But we don't leave things in uncategorized. And if I'm looking at your profit and loss and I see things sitting in uncategorized or miscellaneous expense categories, that's a red flag for me. I'm going to bring it up with you and I'm going to ask you to please categorize these things and move them to a different expense category. category. Now let's do a quick walkthrough of how to set up expense categories, where to find them in QuickBooks Online. And remember, you can get even more of these best practices from me, a sample chart of accounts to use, and step-by-step instructions to set up your QuickBooks Online inside the Bookkeeping Foundation Kit. You can go to bookkeepingfoundationkit.com, check out the curriculum, and purchase for just $77. You'll also get a free bonus, which is 30 days inside my private entrepreneurial community, where I go live twice a month, I host virtual office hours, and I give you even more specific and in-depth content tutorials that are exclusive to members of the community. So here we are in the sample company in QuickBooks Online, where I'm going to show you how to find your chart of accounts, add and delete any expense categories. First things first, you have my best practices for using QuickBooks Online inside the Bookkeeping Foundation Kit that will allow you to remove a lot of this visual clutter, and I show you which tabs I actually want you to bookmark and then close out this menu with. So you'll find your chart of accounts under the Transactions tab, and it has its own little tab right here. From there, we are going to look for our expense categories. By default, this list will be filtered by account type or sorted by account type. And so the first thing you'll see is your checking and savings accounts, accounts receivable, assets, etc. I'm going to scroll to the bottom of this list to find the expense categories. You'll start to see your expense categories after the income and cost of goods categories. And when we have identified the grouping of expense type categories, they are going to be listed then by alphabetical order, unless you're using account numbers, in which case they will be listed in numerical order by the account number. QuickBooks is going to put in some default categories for us. Most businesses have advertising costs and automobile costs and bank charges, or they pay for dues and subscriptions. So a lot of these we can leave in here. But for instance, if I am a landscaping company, which is what this sample company is set up as, I probably don't have anybody that I'm paying commissions to, because the labor that I hire are all the people that I come out to do landscaping and lawn service jobs with me. And I don't pay anybody commissions off of like work that comes in. So what I'm going to do is click on the drop down arrow, and then I can just click make inactive. And you won't be able to deactivate an account if you are using that expense category in like a recurring expense or other recurring template. But that's the easy way to go through and identify expense categories that you're just never going to use. Or even if you did end up starting to pay somebody commissions off of your team, you can scroll to the very top of your chart of accounts list, click on the settings, click on include inactive accounts, and then I can just type in the filter option up top to bring back that commissions and fees account and click to make it active again. Now, whenever I want to create a new expense category, I'm going to click on the new button in the top right corner. And what we first have to do is give the account a name. Let's just say we're going to buy our team lunch every day whenever we're out doing landscaping jobs. So I'm going to create an account labeled Team Meals. And then we need to tell QuickBooks what type of account this is. This video is specific to expense categories. So you're either going to choose expenses or other expense, but most of the time an expense account type works. The detail type is less important, but it allows us to get clear about what we're paying for. And I'm just going to put other business expenses for my team meals. From there, you can tell QuickBooks to make this a sub account. If there already is a meals and entertainment account and you want to identify the meals that you buy your team, specifically when they're on a job, we might make this a sub account. And that way we can see the difference between what is being spent on just general meals and then what's being spent on team meals specifically. You also need to let QuickBooks know if this is going to be something that is a billable expense in the future, meaning that your business incurs the expense upfront and then you turn around and bill a client or a customer to reimburse you plus maybe a markup for this expense. Now, QuickBooks has this feature where it's going to show you how the new expense category that you're setting up is going to show up on your profit and loss accounts. So if you were looking at your profit and loss statement, you would see the main category for meals and entertainment, and then you would see the team meals offset a little bit right underneath it because we did set this up as a sub account. If I uncheck the sub account option, team meals is no longer listed under meals and entertainment, and it is in the main list of categories. From here, I would just click save and new to add this to my chart of accounts. It's super important, as you can see, and as we've talked about, why we need to get your expense categories really dialed in if you're using QuickBooks Online. So take a few minutes this week and look at your chart of accounts in QuickBooks Online. Look at your expense categories. Are there things that you're using on there that maybe you've been using inappropriately, or you've been miscategorizing things to that category? And go ahead and make those changes, maybe in your bank rules, or maybe when you're doing data entry, that you pay attention next time to how you're categorizing things and expenses. I want to challenge you to look at your expense categories and see what comes up. Are there any questions that you have about how to categorize something? And let me know. Leave a comment below, send me an email, or jump over to the Mind the Gap community on Facebook. It's only $7 a month for you to join, but you'll get 30 days free when you purchase the Bookkeeping Foundation Kit. Thanks so much for watching this video. Please subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and let me know down below what you want to learn about as far as bookkeeping and using QuickBooks Online goes. Make sure to like this video if you liked this video and hit the notification bell so you'll never miss a new video from me. Anything that I've mentioned in the video, I will make sure to put a link to in the description box, but go to bookkeepingfoundationkit.com and purchase your kit today. I want to walk you through setting up your QuickBooks Online the right way and learning how to do bookkeeping using my simple method. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you all have an amazing week.